The Plague is published in 1947. It describes an epidemic from absurdistic point of view. The city described in this novel was affected by bubonic plague in 1556 era, but the description in this novel is severer than the reality. Thus, it paints a different picture on an epidemic with the glances on administration, public opinions, and humanistic values.
This was an hour of the day when the plague lay low, so to speak. The silence, the extinction of all color and movement, might have been due as much to the fierce sunlight as to the epidemic, and there was no telling if the air was heavy with menace of merely with dust and heat. You had to look closely and take thought to realize that plague was here, for it betrayed its presence only by negative signs. Thus Cartwright, who had affinities with it, drew Rambert's attention to the absence of the dogs that in normal times would have been sprawling in the shadows of the doorways, panting, trying to find a non-existent patch of coolness. They went along the boulevard des Palmiers, crossed the Place d'Armes, and then turned down toward the docks. Everybody knows that pestilences have a way of recurring in the world, yet somehow we find it hard to believe in ones that crash down on our heads from a blue sky. There have been as many plagues as wars in history, yet always plagues and wars take people equally by surprise. A pestilence isn't a thing made to man's measure. Therefore, we tell ourselves that pestilence is a mere bogey of the mind, a bad dream that will pass away. From one bad dream to another, it is men who pass away, and no one will ever be free so long as there are pestilences. That there was no way of getting out of the town by lawful methods during the period when the plague was gathering all its forces to fling them at the town and lay it waste, is the long, heart-rendingly monotonous struggle put up by some obstinate people like Rambert to recover their lost happiness and to balk the plague of that part of themselves which they were ready to defend in the last ditch. This was their way of resisting the bondage closing in upon them, and while their resistance lacked the active virtues of the other, it had to the narrator's thinking its point, and moreover it bore witness, even in its futility and incoherences, to a salutary pride. The doctor gazed down at the face that turned toward him in the glow of the bedside lamp. His wife was 30, and the long illness had left its mark on her face. In one street alone, the doctors counted as many as dozen rats deposited on the vegetables. Oh, I suppose it's an epidemic that no less than 6,231 rats had been collected and burned in a single day, April 25. You couldn't waste your time on it. The thing was to do your job as should be done, always, everywhere, with the eternal cry of human pain. Now,
Algeria-born French author Albert Camus is attributed to the contribution for absurdism in literature. He was influenced to some extent by Friedrich Nietzsche. I read this novel during lockdown period due to another disastrous epidemic of human history, COVID-19. I felt like a gruesome picture emanating from the corona period in the novel written 7 decades ago. For viewing the exact situation of an epidemic, this novel is a must read.